Today, we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite subject, the Public Library Annual Report. I'm here, this is Carissa, if we haven't met, and then Dana Peterson is here also, who will be super helpful with every part of this. So yeah, this is, whoop, that didn't work. Okay, here's what we can expect to talk about today. I'm going to show you some of Dana's incredible PLAR data visualizations. We're going to do a sort of overview of some of the things that I think kind of trip people up the most. Then we're going to get into the updates and changes for the 2024 PLAR, so the one that is opening in January that is covering 2024. Then we will debut a spreadsheet for collecting programming information, and then talk about updates and changes for the 2025 PLAR. So, and then throughout, I would like to see your questions. I'm hoping that you can either unmute and shout them out, or someone will let me know if there's a question. But if there's some in the chat that I don't catch while I'm talking, we'll pick them up at the end and we can go through things. So we'll try not to miss any of those questions. Yeah, getting started. And Dana is here, so if it gets into the technical parts of this, she will hop in and save me, I hope. But I just wanted to show you some of the things that are available to you as visualizations. So I hope this is this showing the dashboards now? Yes, okay. So what this has is this is essentially the information that you've been getting out of our systems for years, but these are some new super useful visualizations that Dana's made. And I know we've been talking these up all over the state, so you might have seen these, but I think that they're just so cool. We have this one, which is basically a snapshot of your library's data for the year. So you just go in, you select who you are or who anyone is, and you can pull up the information for them on these kind of key metrics that we talk about all the time. Dana's always also created for us this download PDF function, which I think is really useful. And then let's see if that'll show up. It'll probably make it angry. But those are really cool because you can download the data in a CSV file, or you can download a PDF to hand to someone. So I know that there's a lot of situations working with boards, working with the public, where you're just like, I want something I can give to them. And so that PDF gives you that ability. Did I miss anything, Dana?
No, I think that's about it.
And then we have the key ratios, which are things that we talk about all the time: the staff per 1,000, visits per capita, circulation per capita, those things. Here, you can select all of the libraries. You can also select any number of libraries that you want to compare to here. So you can go in, and if you uncheck all, then I can just have like, I'm clicking these fully at random, so they may have nothing in common, but you can start just like putting up libraries that you want to compare yourself to and seeing kind of where you're at there.
Bless you.
Yeah, it scared me. We also have these statewide summaries here. You hear Kieran talk about these things a lot, and these are just super useful. Like what are we looking at as far as expenditures, all of those key ratios kind of on a statewide basis. And then let's see. These are all things that you can just click through too. I won't drag you through all of these because they are all fairly more or less similar, unless there's one you want to highlight, Dana. Are there any that, yeah.
No, just explore, and if there's other kinds that you would like to see or some more individual things, please let me know. I'm happy to make whatever will work for you guys.
This one's cool, because you can also sort some of these, the group filter ones, by population, by legal basis. And then we can do our tourism community libraries that we had a bunch of help working on for the last year, redeveloping that. So those are available. The other cool thing that we have here that you probably saw as a part of the standards is these data tools, and they kind of allow you to do the same things, but it's within the, as you're kind of looking through the standards, we also have these very cool dashboards. This one I think is, this one is comparing salaries to cost of living. So this one's a really interesting one. If you're in that salary standard trying to figure out where you're at or where you need to be, this is a great one. Or if you're in the salary standard trying to figure out how to convince your board where you need to be, this is also a really useful one. But there's things like that. So yeah, that's another one where just click through the link and then you can, this is the link here. But you can click in, look at these. If you have any questions, you can ask me or Dana, or likely Dana, because she's the expert on this. So just kind of poke around there in the chat.
Yeah, I put them both in the chat. We're good.
Oh, thank you. I really wish that I could multitask, but I can't. Okay, so here's the PLAR overview. I'm just gonna run through this really quickly. If you need further explanation or have questions or anything, always don't hesitate to reach out to me. Probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me are text or email. You can also call. And in the initial email that I sent y'all, there's also a link that you can put a time on my calendar to talk to me online as well. The website has not changed. It's just the colorado.countingopinions.com. If you don't have a login or you're having trouble logging in, you can contact either of us and we'll get you squared away. And then for definitions, this is something that really trips people up each year, and it's because the system is weird. And so what you do is you click on the question number and a little box pops up. And to see the definition, you have to scroll to the top. We did try mightily to get this changed to where it would show the definition when you clicked on it, but it's something that the system is just, they're not able to do that within the system. So you have to click on it and then scroll up. There's also, the notes are kind of weird. And so I kind of keep these in my mind in two different things. So when you're in Counting Opinions, and you want to keep a note that lasts year over year for you, then you'll click on, oh, I'm pointing with my hands, that doesn't make sense. You click on the number here and this will pop up, and you scroll to the bottom or stay on the bottom. And when you enter a note into this little box, so definitions are at the top, notes are at the bottom. If you enter a note here, this will stay with your library as long as the notes are in there. So or as long as we're on this software. I guess I shouldn't promise forever, but that's something where a lot of people will put where they found this number, or what's the weird calculation that maybe needs to be done, things like that. You can put this in these notes, and so then next year when you're looking, you're kind of helping yourself by just having this information here. When the system stops you and gives you the edit check where it puts that red message up, that you put those notes in this little notebook. So you click on him, it'll pop open, and then you put the notes in there. And those are the things that I review when I'm looking at your survey. I will actually review both of them generally, but this is the ones that, like, if you really want to put a note to me or to clear the edit check, it will live in here. Hopefully this makes it less frustrating. I know it's really frustrating when you're just trying to enter a form and it keeps popping up that it needs a note and you're like, I put one in. Sometimes it's because it was into the notes to keep over year and not in the edit check part. Also, if you ever feel frustrated, just shoot me a text, shoot me an email, give me a call, and we'll walk through it. Another thing that people like to be able to do, and that is a little bit strange in this system, is the printing a copy of the PLAR. So when you're looking at the system, this print does show up here. And then you can click the PDF with breaks option. That's the best one that we have at the moment. It does do some weird things when you have multiple outlets in the outlets section. And that's something that we keep bringing to our vendor, but it is there. And so we're working on a better printable version and how to get that to you as we speak. That should be available within the next few months.
I am renumbering some things to tighten up the numbering. We shuffled some questions around, and so the numbers were no longer in numerical order. And someone gave a note, some feedback last year that it would be nice to have those numbers next to the headers, so I'm also adding that in. Trying to be responsive to your feedback. We can't say, no, you don't have to do it, but maybe we can make it a little less painful.
Yes, and that actually is solving maybe the thing that makes this the hardest for me too. So I appreciate the person that brought that to our attention and said, hey, fix this, and that Dana's fixing it. Um, okay, so we've got some, now I'm gonna get into the changes that we've done, and they kind of are in three categories. There's the cleanup things that we've done. There are some updates to definitions, just generally to make things clearer. And then there's the question changes that we'll get into, some deleted, I'd say mostly deletes, but some changes. So we did have somebody report last year, and I can't remember who it was, but thank you very much, that we were asking about meeting rooms, both in the system section at the top and then in the outlet section. So we went through and just double checked that we weren't duplicating those questions and pulled those out of the system section and into the outlet section. We also have added back in some of the edit checks for the programming questions. We had taken those out just because programming got so complicated after the 2020 changes that they did at the federal level, but we're to the point where we think that we're ready to have the edit checks back in. So we're doing that. That'll also prevent me asking just confusing questions in follow-up emails about programming that are much easier to answer when you're in there looking at it than a couple months later when you get a wild email from me. I also took out the unavailable option for revenue questions. So now for revenue, you either have 0 or you have a number. Those are your options there. The updated definitions, electronic content expenditures. The federal group removed languages around diskettes and CD-ROMs. So that was the update there. Other physical materials, we added language about tangible digital media and portable electronic materials. So a slight change in that, just to update to current practices. Total reference transactions, something that the statistics committee at the national level is really interested in, is figuring out how to define a reference transaction. So you can look through that. Reference transactions by their nature are kind of defined at the library level, so continue defining them the way that you'd like. But if this clarification is helpful, then use that. For the total number of asynchronous, so these are the recorded program presentations, it just clarifies what program is counted there. And then the total views of asynchronous program presentations, same thing, those recorded program presentations, we're measuring them at the 30 days. So it's just clarifying what is counted and trying to kind of just sink into this one definition of what we're counting for program presentations. And then for electronic resources, I did put a link in here that's to a document that goes through all these changes and has the exact values that are changing. But in electronic resources, there's sort of been a change. We spent a lot of time working on this for a couple of years, trying to figure out how to count these collections because they just differ so much. So what is counted in Mango languages versus what is counted in EBSCO are very, very different, and trying to like combine those into one thing and then count individual resources is just kind of not possible. So we're changing from counting that collection to counting purchasing and expenditures. What the solution was we did add quite a few questions, but they are all yes, no questions. They're not, you don't have to go in and count anything. So for each section, electronic books, serials, audio, video, research databases, you're asked 3 things. If you purchase them as a library system, so that is you doing the purchasing with your money. Via the state, the answer to all of those will be no, because we don't have statewide collections. And then via collective. So this is with Click, Marmot, Front Range, anytime that you're getting together to purchase things, then it'll be, do you do this or do you not do this? So It kind of looks like a lot, but it's the same 3 questions about each of these sections. And it is just about, do you have them, do you not? And how do you buy them, essentially. Um, so for e-material circulation, we're going to ebook, e-serial, e-audio, and e-video circulation. We had a couple of these were still broken out into like audio was into like music and other audio and all those things, and we're kind of just combining those things together. This follows what they do at the federal level, and it's just a simplification of what we're doing to match what had already been done to ebooks and e-serials. Um, And then public service hours. So we're going back to libraries doing the annual calculations. This is what we used to do before, is you would go in and calculate those and then just give us a total number. We tried to make a solution that let the system do the math, and it turns out that life is too complicated for that. And so we're rolling back our solution, and you'll just give us a total number of public service hours that you were open for the year. And if you need help with that calculation, please let us know. We are keeping that calculation at the branch level. So you'll give this information for each of your branches, and then we can, in reports, roll it up to the whole system if you need that information. And here is where we talk about the full overhaul of the numbering system. So thank you to Dana for doing this. So if you have notes that are about like specific numbers of questions, then those numbers may have changed, but hopefully it will make it less absolutely chaotic, which I think was where our number system was. Because over the years, it just happens. Then for questions removed, these are things that were removed by that national committee. Electronic content use, that's the kind of how do we measure this, what counts as a use, all of that. We're just eliminating that and getting rid of electronic content use. This, because we're getting rid of electronic content use, then total collection use also goes away, because that was a calculated field. We are getting rid of website visits. And then we are getting rid of the number of electronic collections. This one, it's that same thing. It's just very odd. Like, what counts as an electronic collection? Is EBSCO one big one or 100 little ones? All of that. So that is just being eliminated in favor of those questions about where and what you're purchasing. We're taking out the average numbers of hours open per week per outlet, not because we don't think this is useful, but because that's super easy to do with the information that we have. We can already do the math. And then my mistake of leaving meeting rooms in use in 2 sections, we have rectified that. Now, I feel like I'm going through this very quickly, but we have adapted this program tracking spreadsheet from our counterpart in Connecticut. This is something that we worked with Kieran on this year. There's a few people that are using this. We know that some people are using things that are different from this or better than this. And so I encourage you to share what you're using. This is a pretty simple, just tracking programs. You put in the name, the date, and answer the questions about it. And this will just kind of keep a running total for you throughout the year. It will also it'll give you your monthly totals. It'll feed those in based on the date. And then it'll give you your state report totals. So this is something that you can just, if you've put everything in this for the year, then you can just report that out to us using these numbers. So hopefully that makes life a little bit easier. But yeah, again, if you have something that's working better, awesome. If you have advice on how to make this work better, also awesome. We're totally open to feedback on this form and everything that we do. But yeah, if you've got something that you're like, you know what, I did this better, you can send it to me and I'll put it out, or yeah, or you can just send it to each other. I just encourage people, especially with programming, having some sort of tracking tool like this, even if it's really simple, I think really helps it not be quite so wild at the end. Yes. I think I can just share this. Let's see what happens. Shared the form. Okay. Oh no, I've gotten lost again. Here we go. Back into my thing. Okay. Oh no, I got so excited about this slide. Okay, this is the slide. I'm going to show you a chunk of the best email that I've gotten all year. And I wanted to like put like fireworks on this, but I'm not that technologically savvy. So I just set it up so that you could see this portion of the email, which is that there will be no data element revisions to the fiscal year 2025. So in 2025, all of these changes and updates and all of this stuff will not be happening. So we had a lot in 2024 for this that we'll be doing in 2025. But when we're doing 2025 data in 2026, no changes. So that's exciting. I also set it up so that for Colorado changes in 2025, I am going to promise you that I will have no more than 3 added questions, and I'm working with folks right now to get those. So we'll have those announced December 2024 before the collection starts. So I hope I'm setting us up to be in a world where we do all of these changes and all of these announcements prior to the year starting so that everybody can feel like they're really on their ability to do the tracking throughout the year. So yeah, I really think this might have been my best email of the year when I found out that there were no changes. So I hope that that makes other people happy too. And then we have come to the end. So this is our survey that we take. This is for our IMLS funding. They like to have feedback on our presentation. So feel free to do this. And now we are open for questions, if there are any.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So you said there's going to be 3 questions added in December. So the form that's in the system now is not updated then to start like looking at that to see what's in there, right? So there's going to be 3 more questions added.
No. So for this year, we're set.
Okay.
So for the one that opens in January 2025 that is for 2024, it's not quite finished. I think we still are just doing some quality checks on the form, but we're not going to be adding or messing around with any questions for that one.
Okay.
So the 3 questions are for collection in 2025 that we would report in 2026.
Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that gets really confusing when we're in different years.
Krista, can you hear me? I have a question for you and Dana.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm sorry, Dana. I know we had a conversation about this and it didn't come up in here. I am very confused about FET, the employee full-time status, part-time status, salary section on the PLAR. Can you delve in a little bit better on what needs to be actually put in there?
Do you want me to get this one, Dana, or do you want to?
I think go for it. I'll check
Okay.
your math.
Yes. So FTE is full-time equivalent employees. So I am a 1 FTE because I'm a full-time equivalent working 40 hours a week. But you might have a 0.5 FTE, someone who works 20 hours a week. So we assume a 40-hour work week, and then do percentages below that. So really commonly is like a 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. I'm sure we have people working all kinds of shorter schedules. And so what we want from those things is the number of employees in that full-time equivalent. So if I have me 1 and then I have 2.75 employees, then I would have 2.5 employees, right? Yes. So that's 3 humans, but 2.5 FTE. Does that make sense?
No. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So let me give you my example here. Like Dana and I had this conversation a little bit ago because it was an issue with my stats. I am a full-time employee. The Bailey branch manager just became full-time in 2024. Everybody else is either 23.5 or 19.5 hours max. And that really confuses me on how to fill, because they don't actually all, the 23.5 work those hours, but the 19.5 are all over the board. Sometimes they're, 5 hours, sometimes they're 7 hours, sometimes they're 12 hours. So I'm just not really sure what to put in that section at this point. That really confuses me. How do I figure that out? Do I do the max allotted amount of hours even if they're not working them? Or do I have to actually go through payroll for 20 plus some employees and figure out what their yearly average hours were? I just don't know how to do that. I don't know what you're asking for is how I should put that.
Right. That's a great question because I had always thought of like, if you have a 19.5 employee, obviously they're working 19.5 hours, call it a day. So this is a complication. Um,
I wish they're not. They're
right?
allotted 19.5, but very few of them are consistent 19.5 hours.
Right. So my first kind of gut answer to this, which may not be perfect, is that I would count the allotment, right? A 19.5 employee is a 19.5 employee. Um, because that is kind of what is in your administrative reality. And I hesitate to ask someone to be like, for all of your casual employees, go in and get their actual hours for the whole year. That sounds like a nightmare to do at any size of library. Um, so that's going to be my answer now. I will send out to this group an updated when I can reach out to some of my folks at other states because I want to make sure that we're counting this correctly, but I also do not want to send you on like a nightmare errand to figure out people's hours for the year without,
Okay.
Thought behind it. So let me put a pin in
No.
that and give you my kind of what I think is going to happen, and then I'll double check it.
Okay. And since I'm on mic, I have a couple more questions before I jump off to hot topics, which we emailed about.
We did, and I'm so sorry I wasn't able to reschedule. It just, yeah.
It's okay. I get it. I get it. I get it. I just really wanted to kind of go through the new stuff on the PLAR and make sure. And I love all of the new data images. I just got to tell you, wow, you guys are doing a great job. Makes it so much easier as far as comparison and all of that to go in there and show our boards and county commissioners.
Yeah.
But my thank you. My other question is you had talked about outlets and branches. Basically, we're kind of doing that the same is what I understood from what you were saying. As far as square footage, how many hours are you open?
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys compile it as a whole. That was a little bit confusing to me in what you said earlier, and that I think what I understood was we still, if we have a bunch of branches, we still have to do them separately in the PLAR. I'm just verifying that.
Yes. And a
Okay.
couple of the questions we used to have you just like do all your branches and add up all the hours and put them in the top of the survey essentially. But so that has moved to where instead of adding them all up for us, you're just putting them in branch by branch.
Okay. Okay. That actually makes it easier. Last question. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Electronic resources. The state doesn't provide any, so we don't have to worry about that. And it's in there just because. So what you're saying is that if I am paying for Mango Languages with library funding, that's that's under library expenses. But I'm paying for Click with EBSCO through library expenditures too, and that's confusing to me.
For sure. And I think, thank you for that, because the distinction is, are you going out to Mango and saying, I would like to buy this, and they say, yes, sign this contract, and then you buy it directly from them? Or are you going in with Click and then doing their like cost sharing situation? Those are kind of the two things. So it's more about who you buy them from than it is like what funding. I probably misspoke on that. Does that make more sense?
A little bit. So what you're saying is that since Click is a collaborative, and we get a discount for so many different things, whether we purchase through Demco or this, that, or the other, because we're signed on with Click, that would so even though I'm paying for EBSCO through my library budget, I guess I'm still confused.
Yes. Let me back up just a little bit to get to like what the intent of the question was. And it's basically to figure out, are you buying them through a consortium or are you buying them individually? So
Right.
yeah, so I think even though when you're buying with a Click discount, that is buying through the consortium essentially, as far as like the spirit of this, although I'm not entirely sure that is like, it may not look that way with the when you're actually like writing the check. Probably the check is going to EBSCO, but you're going through Click to do that.
Actually, what if the check is going directly to Click for all of it, for AspenCat, for EBSCO, for, well, it's not any more universal classes or even Libby ACDC. But if the check is going through Click, does that count as a consortium number?
So yeah, that would be a yes on purchased through collective.
Okay. I think you answered my question. Thank you, Chris. I'm
Yes.
sorry to be
Thank
such
you.
a pain.
No, and I do all these things and attend all these meetings, but I'm not out in the library writing these checks. So it's always good for me to hear what's happening kind of on the ground.
Great. Okay, and then one more question, and I'm gonna hop off and try to hit hot topics before they lock me out. Is the programming that's it's not synchronicity. I'm trying to think of synchronicity in the universe. Okay, we're not there.
We'll get there.
I hope you're right. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It is just the recorded. Those programming questions really throw me off here in Park County. If we're not recording programs, we basically don't have anything to fill out in that data. Is that correct?
Correct. And that's why it starts with a yes, no. Any of the recorded programs, the very first question is, did you do any synchronous recorded programs, yes or no? And you can just answer no, and you won't even see that question group. Same with recorded presentations that you put up on YouTube or Vimeo, and those would be asynchronous. If you did not do those, you just answer no.
Okay. One more question on programming that kind of throws me off, and I love that you guys put out a spreadsheet there. This, is it a library program or is it an outreach program? Has that been kind of consolidated to not make it so confusing? Like if we have partnerships in the community like Public Health or Senior Coalition that come in and use the library meeting room as their source of connecting with the community, how is that counted on the PLAR at this point?
So if they're just coming in to use the meeting room, which not just, I think that's awesome. That's something that like libraries are really giving to the community. Then that would count as a meeting room use. But if your library is helping plan or put on or providing material support to them, then that would count as a library program. So this one is as like, who is planning it? If it's co-planned, but the library is doing planning or providing, I don't know, popsicle sticks or like little log houses. I don't know what we would be providing, but if you're providing things or people or time to it, then that counts as a library program. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. What about posting flyers and information on the program? Does that count as a co-library? That's a library program, not an outreach program, or no?
If you're involved in the planning and you're going out and you're involved in the advertising, that is involving the library in the program. And so that would be a library program. If they just
Okay,
hand you a paper to put up on the wall, that's not really the library
program.
participating.
Okay,
That's just like general information. And then the other one, the outreach. Outreach is for those things where you're just handing library information to people. So you're at, someone was telling me they go to like football games or something and you have a table and you're handing people information, that's outreach. If you go to a football game and you're helping people put things on hold and get library cards, then that's a library program that would be offsite.
oh, okay. No, that's great clarification. So offsite and outreach are two different definitions.
Yes, and one of our most common outreach things is like being in a parade. That's outreach, and you're getting the the library is being made. People are being made aware that the library exists and what programs we have. But it's not a program itself.
Okay,
So it's
okay,
about the kind of like are they using a library service or are they just getting information about what the library does? That's the distinction there.
okay. Okay, and then last question, I promise.
Mhm.
Well, not really. I'll probably be emailing one or the other of you guys soon, or when it comes out. Um, if it's meeting room use only, and there's a question on there, kind of hoping it either went away or it's better defined. How many people came into the library that wouldn't normally come into the library, that came into the library because we had public health there doing a program? That one throws me off too. How do we count that? We can't double count it as meeting room usage and how many people came into the library that normally wouldn't have come into the library. I mean, I guess I'm not understanding that definition either.
I'm not entirely sure which question you're asking about.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. So when an outreach program, so it's meeting room usage.
Mhm.
There's a public health in there, and they're using the meeting room to say, hey, we're giving out flu vax. There's another question of how many people walked into the library, unless I'm
Oh,
crazy,
is this
that that
the one
wouldn't
that's
have
like
normally walked into the library, but they walked into the library because it was an outreach program.
this is the outreach number of people exposed question, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. Thank you.
so what that is that's for outreach events that you're doing. Like if we talk about a parade and 12,000 people come to a parade, then you can count people exposed as that 12,000 people because those
Ah,
are the people that saw you doing something. You could also count it as how many flyers did you hand out at an outreach event? So those are less about things happening in the library and more about how many people did your advertising reach.
okay.
So for the
Perfect.
group doing flu shots, because if the library is not involved in the planning at all, it's just you've got a group in that's going to do flu shots, then that would count as one meeting room use. And then you would count any library things that people do while they're in there in the normal way. But you wouldn't have to keep track of how many people come in for a flu shot.
Got you. That I think you answered my question. Thank
Cool.
you, Carissa. I'm gonna
Thank you.
head out. Thank you, Dana. Thank you guys. I'm sure I'll be bothering you come 2025. I appreciate you guys.
We're always here.
All right, all right. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? I know there was a question about getting a list of the questions that we have, and we can look at getting that list of definitions out.
Yeah, I hope to get that in the next week or two
Yeah.
out to everybody with all the numbers matchy.
Thank you. Thank you.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
And my question is about how we count one-on-one interactions as opposed to, so let me give you an example. We have events where our librarian will go out and do like a tech cafe,
Mhm.
like at the senior center. Are those one-on-one transactions or are those library programs? Because they're dealing one-on-one with individuals, but it could be 10 individuals.
Yes, so I would count those as those one-on-one.
Okay,
So it technically is a library program, but if you're going out to meet with people individually, then that would go into your count of individual one-on-one like tech help sessions that we have. If
okay,
you're out there and you go to the senior center and you do a little talk about the library and you know do some stuff and maybe some people want to look at how to check out books and you're doing like library program stuff and then you do these one-on-one sessions, that would actually count as one program with the attendance. And then I would count each one-on-one session in that other
okay,
area. Does that make sense? Because
yeah,
you're doing a combined thing where you're out doing a program, but you're also doing library stuff. And so both of those
sure.
things should be counted.
Okay. Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I love hearing about all the programs that people do. Right. And then do we have any other questions that we didn't get in the chat or?
This is Gina, can you remind me where that counting one-on-one section is? There's
Yes.
Go ahead.
So that is
It's under services, I think.
Because I know in the programming definitions, they talk about excluding one-to-one help.
It's
things
under
like
public
homework help.
library technology.
Okay,
and if you're doing non-technical one-on-one help, that counts as reference, right? So the one-on-one technology, the reason why we have that kind of like scooped out is because we're supporting CDPHE's work with the data equity. So we want to know how many, you know, we want to know about your services, your reference services for sure, always, all of them. But we have the one-on-one tech help, we have that separated out because that supports their work. The reasoning behind that question is we want CDPHE, when they're doing digital equity, to know that libraries are already doing this work. These are things that are already happening in libraries. And so we provide that information to them directly. So that's why there's kind of those two areas working.
so we have a program for adult literacy where tutors meet one-on-one with students. Where would that fall in counting it? It's not a program open, it's not like it's a program open for drop-in tech help or something. It's a, you know, a one-on-one relationship with a tutor and a student over several months.
Right. So that could go a couple of ways. If you have a group of people doing it, so it's like you have 5 tutors and 5 students that meet every Tuesday at 7 p.m., right? That's a program with attendees. If you have individual tutors meeting with individuals at other times, then under our current structure, there's not a place that's super clear, but where that would live is reference. Those would be reference. What are the longer form reference called? Consultations.
Oh.
I hope that makes sense.
Well, it doesn't really, I don't think it makes sense under reference, but it's just a one-on-one help with literacy. It's not like I don't know. It seems odd to me that we don't count that kind of stuff one-on-one in a meaningful way, really. But it's important work that we do. that all libraries do, I think, in some way. And
Well, and it sounds like you
Kinda
could put
gets
it as a
lost.
program.
well, it says it specifically doesn't, you call it out as specifically not considered a program because it's one-on-one appointments and it's not like a program where all the tutors and all the students are in one
Same time.
date and time scheduled. It's that each tutor meets with their student on their own schedule, basically.
Right. No, I think you're right that our system is not capturing that accurately. And that's why it's kind of getting shoehorned into reference because that's where those things are living as kind of a catch-all. It would be interesting, kind of not for this collection, but for the coming collection, to look at, is this something that we want to be collecting, these like one-on-one meetings? And I think that exploring that is smart because I think there's a lot of one-on-one help that we do that's similar to that, that is sort of being shoehorned into a catch-all and not being called out as important services. So I agree with you. But I also
Yeah,
would put it.
I agree with that too, Gina, because we also added the one-on-one ESL training or tutoring. We also had a one-on-one legal help that we did as
Yeah.
well. So there's a lot of one-on-one transactions that are not technology.
Right.
Right. Yeah, they're real community-based and sort of, and I think libraries are just moving in that direction. There are these other services that we offer that don't, like you say, shoehorn into the reference and are really not technology-based, but other kinds of needs, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think for the PLAR, because we've sort of stopped changing things for the year, I think we'll have to do that at the national state level. But I do encourage people to keep that information and give it to like your boards also. So you can always collect more and then kind of give us the high level. But I think we definitely, for the next collection, should look at this and see if we can come up with something that would capture more of these things, because I think that these are things that we really want to be able to call out for folks, that you're doing this work.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like maybe I need to just like be an intern at a library for a month a year so that I know what's actually happening on the ground. But yeah, I appreciate it. Any other questions? All right. Not seeing any. And again, if you have any other questions as time goes on, feel free to contact me or Dana or anyone at the state library and we'll get it figured out. I appreciate everybody hanging on and asking such good questions. I love to hear what's happening out in the world. And yeah, I appreciate it. And there'll be more information as we come online and start collecting data in January. So thank you.